afternoon. Thank you for joining us for our virtual siting and routing update for Colorado's Power Pathway. Although we are joining you virtually today, we do look forward to meeting with you in person during one of our in-person public open houses planned for this fall that we'll learn a little bit about later in the presentation. I'm Jennifer Chester. I'll be coordinating our meeting today. Let's start with a few meeting tips. To reduce background noise during this event, all attendees will be maintained on mute. You can ask questions at any time by pressing *3 on your phone or by typing your question in the online portal. We'll address these questions during the Q&A session at the end of the event. If you're on the phone and would like to see the presentation slides and ask questions through the online portal, please go to coloradospowerpathway.com. The virtual event portal is located on our home page and will work on computers and mobile devices. If you have connection issues during the meeting, please call 855-962-1519 for the English presentation, or 833-380-0723 for the Spanish presentation in audio only. With me today are team representatives from various disciplines who will be presenting information. Heather Brickey, Program Manager for Colorado's Power Pathway, and Amber Zetas, Principal Agent in the Siting and Land Rights Group, will start us off. I'll introduce more of the team representatives later during the question and answer session. During our presentation, we'll cover several topics listed on screen and end with that question and answer session, where we'd like to hear from you. Heather, could you please tell us a little bit more about Colorado's Power Pathway and why Xcel Energy is proposing the project?
Sure. Colorado's Power Pathway, also called the Pathway, is a $1.7 to $2 billion investment to Colorado's transmission system. The project includes up to 650 miles of new double-circuit 345 kilovolt transmission lines that loop around the eastern part of the state. On the right side of this slide is a map of the proposed project area. For a more detailed interactive map, you can visit our website at coloradospowerpathway.com. The $1.7 billion investment includes 5 segments of new 345 double-circuit transmission lines. These 5 segments are the backbone of the transmission system being proposed with this project and is approximately 560 miles long. The backbone also includes 3 new substations and the expansion of 4 existing substations. The additional $300 million is an optional 90-mile double-circuit 345 kilovolt transmission line shown in yellow on the map called the May Valley Longhorn Extension. This will be included in the project if the Colorado Public Utilities Commission, or CPUC, approves this addition with the rest of the project in our Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity, or CPCN application. Approval is expected early next year. For more information, the filing materials can be found on Colorado's Power Pathway website on the Regulatory and Permitting page under Project Description. This includes links to the CPUC website and the e-filings page to view regulatory documents associated with the project, including notices, filings, public comments, and more. Once the loop is completed, it will enhance the transmission system reliability by providing a redundant path for power to flow from new wind and solar generation facilities to the load centers. If there's a break on part of the system, the power can flow in the opposite direction. It will also provide diversity for wind and solar energy around the state. The green or teal-colored area includes segments 2, 3, and 6. These 3 segments will be completed in 2025, assuming CPCN approval, to take advantage of the production tax PCs available for new wind farms, only operational by the end of 2025. The PTCs are currently set to expire at the end of 2025. Taking advantage of these will lower the cost of installing new wind generation, which benefits all Colorado customers. Segment 1 in yellow will be completed in 2026, and segments 4 and 5, depicted in orange, will be completed in 2027. This sequencing will allow resources to be added to the system in stages starting in 2025 and will help to manage the resources needed to complete this project. The Eastern Plains of Colorado is one of the nation's best areas for wind and solar development. The new transmission line will encourage and support the construction of wind and solar power plants to bring more low-cost electricity to help meet the needs of our growing state. Existing transmission on the Eastern Plains primarily serves local needs and is nearly full due to existing and new generation expected by 2024. Additional transmission capacity is needed to integrate more renewable generation. Some of the benefits that we anticipate Pathway will bring include short and long-term positive economic impacts by creating new temporary and permanent jobs, lease revenue for landowners, and increased tax revenue. This project will also increase reliability of the electric grid for all users and provide transmission availability for new renewable energy projects. Colorado's Power Pathway supports Xcel Energy's Clean Energy Plan that will add approximately 500 megawatts of new wind, solar, and other resources through 2030 to meet the state's growing electricity needs, improve reliability and affordability, meet the company's goal of 80% lower carbon emissions, and enable the state's transition to clean energy. Now Amber will provide an update on the project routing process and narrowing focus of the project area.
Thanks, Heather. As Jen mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, my name is Amber Detus, and I am a principal agent in our Siting and Land Rights Department, leading our routing, permitting, and land rights acquisition efforts for the Pathway project. The Siting and Land Rights team is responsible for securing land rights, permits, and other approvals that are required before Xcel Energy can construct our utility facilities. Before I provide an update on where we are in our routing efforts for the Pathway project, I want to talk a little about the process we are following to route and site the transmission line segments and new substation sites. So this slide shows the 5 main steps we have and will continue to take to get us to a preferred route for each transmission line. The diagram on this slide visually represents each step in our routing process, which essentially shows how we go from a 20-mile wide study area, shown as step 1, to the preferred transmission line route, which is shown here as step 5. We've also included a timeline to show when each step has and will occur. As you can see from the timeline, we have just completed step 4 and are getting ready to launch a robust public outreach campaign to gain feedback on our segment focus areas and preliminary links. Jen will talk more about our upcoming events later in this presentation. Before we leave this slide and dive into more detail on each segment, I will quickly touch on the activities completed in each step of this routing process. Earlier this year, the project team identified the study area for each segment. These 20-mile wide corridors were established based on the substation endpoints for each segment. This is shown as step 1. We then moved into step 2 by collecting and mapping information within each study area from over 30 data sources. We also completed several field visits to verify our data and understand current land uses within our study areas. The final part of step 2 involved categorizing the information we collected based on its compatibility with transmission lines or substations. Based on the data analysis in step 2, we then moved into step 3 over the summer months and identified preliminary transmission line links between substations. We developed these preliminary links that minimize crossing of constrained areas and maximize the use of more compatible locations for transmission lines. Areas and links with identified constraints or that are less suitable for transmission line and substation development were removed from further consideration. The result of the analysis performed in step 3 is what you see as step 4 on the diagram. As part of step 4, we have identified focus areas for each segment of the project. Focus areas are smaller areas within each study area where we anticipate the preferred transmission routes and substation sites will be located. This is the step we are at today. On the next 6 slides, we will look at each segment focus area in more detail. While we do not anticipate the focus areas to change significantly from what we present today, it is possible input we receive during our upcoming open houses could shift the focus areas slightly. People with post office addresses within the segment focus areas will receive a postcard invite to attend our upcoming in-person open houses that will be held in October and November. The goal of our open houses is to allow the public to provide us with feedback about our project focus areas and preliminary transmission line links that we will display on detailed maps. One final note before we review each segment, you can view all of the focus areas I'm about to present on our project website at coloradospowerpathway.com. We have an interactive map on the home page that allows you to zoom in throughout the project area and get more detail about the extent of each focus area. So now let's take a closer look at segment 1. So this map shows segment 1, also known as Fort St. Vrain to Canal Crossing, and it is located in Weld and Morgan counties. Canal Crossing is a new substation shown as the purple dot here that will be built on property owned by Xcel Energy and will be located adjacent to our existing Pawnee substation. The focus area for segment 1, which is the darker blue shaded area here, is mainly focused in the central portion of the study area, south of the Platte River and north of most existing gas and transmission lines. Some of the major routing considerations in this segment include the Platte River, potential crossing locations of Interstate 76, existing oil and gas infrastructure, more heavily developed land west of I-76, and the location of existing electric and gas lines. Now we'll take a closer look at segment 2. So this segment, also called Canal Crossing to Goose Creek, starts at the new Canal Crossing substation and extends east and south to a new substation called Goose Creek, which will be located in Cheyenne County. The focus area for segment 2 includes Morgan, Washington, Yuma, Kit Carson, and Cheyenne counties. The location of the new Goose Creek substation will be very close to our existing Cheyenne Ridge Wind Farm transmission line. Locating Goose Creek near this existing line will allow us to bring that line in and out of the new substation and network the Cheyenne Ridge transmission line. The darker green shaded area shows the focus area for segment 2, and some of the major routing considerations in this focus area include the potential locations of where the line crosses Interstate 70, existing wind farms, existing oil and gas infrastructure, municipal airports, inhabited buildings, and Brush Prairie Ponds State Wildlife Area. It is also important to note that this segment is the longest segment in the Pathway project. Now we will look at segment 3. So this segment, which also is referred to as Goose Creek to May Valley. This segment is located in Cheyenne and Kiowa counties. As I mentioned previously, the Goose Creek substation will be in Cheyenne County, and the new May Valley substation will be Goose Creek will be in Cheyenne County, and May Valley will be located in Kiowa County. The siting area for each substation is contained within the dashed purple line shown here on the map. The siting areas for the substation, that is. The focus area for segment 3, which is the darker purple shaded area, is mainly focused in the western and central portion of the study area, primarily west of Highway 385 and east of the Sand Creek Massacre site. Some of the major routing considerations for this segment include locating Goose Creek near the existing Cheyenne Ridge transmission line, existing wind farms, the Sand Creek Massacre National Historic Site, Queens State Wildlife Area, conservation easements, potential lesser prairie chicken habitat, and existing inhabited structures. Now we will take a look at segment 4. So segment 4, also referred to as May Valley to Tundra, extends from the new May Valley substation west to our existing Tundra substation, which is currently under construction today. The darker orange shaded area depicts the focus area for this segment. Some of the major routing considerations include inhabited structures, conservation easements, the U.S. Army Pueblo Chemical Depot, the Federal Transportation Technology Center, and potential lesser prairie chicken habitat. Now we'll take a look at segment 5. So segment 5, also referred to as Tundra to Harvest Mile, starts at the Tundra substation and extends north to the existing Harvest Mile substation in Arapahoe County. During step 3 in our routing process, we made the decision to expand the segment 5 study area to the east to account for some unique routing constraints that we learned about after meeting with stakeholders in the study area. The darker gray area shows the focus area for segment 5, and some of the major routing considerations for this segment include existing inhabited structures, the Black Forest, unique constraints related to piloting of defense satellites from Schriever Space Force Base, aerial training areas used by the U.S. Air Force Academy, the Bullseye Auxiliary Airfield, state stewardship trust lands, and existing wind farms. Lastly, we will look closer at segment 6, or what we refer to as the May Valley to Longhorn extension. So finally, if approved to be included in the Pathway project, segment 6 will start at the new May Valley substation and extend south to the new Longhorn substation located in Baca County. The dark yellow shaded area shows the focus area for this segment, and some major routing considerations for this segment include crossing the Arkansas River, conservation easements, existing and planned wind farms, the Comanche National Grasslands, Two Buttes Reservoir State Wildlife Area, the Santa Fe Scenic and Historic Byway, and potential lesser prairie chicken habitat. That concludes our detailed look at the focus areas for each project segment. I will just briefly mention again, you can view all of these focus areas on our project website in our interactive map. I would now like to turn it back to Jen, who is going to share more information about our upcoming in-person open houses that we will be hosting in October and November throughout the project area.
As Amber mentioned, we'll be hosting those in-person open houses to get feedback from everyone on the focus areas that Amber described and to share information about possible alternative locations for the transmission line and substations. The feedback received during these meetings from public and landowners will be evaluated and used to help us make decisions about how we revise transmission line links and substation sites. In early 2022, we plan to share information about those revisions and possible preferred route options and substation site locations in another series of in-person open houses. Ongoing refinements to the transmission line routes or substation sites are likely as design engineering progresses and based on land use permit submittals in each jurisdiction crossed by Colorado's Power Pathway. The fall in-person open houses in October and November will be held in many locations around the project study area. On screen are dates and times for where these meetings will be held, and you can access detailed information about the meeting locations, such as maps to the open house venues and downloadable calendar invitations on our website at coloradospowerpathway.com. As Amber mentioned, postcard invitations will be sent to addresses within the focus areas, and the general public will be invited through newspaper ads, website updates, and stakeholder mailings and the e-newsletter. For these in-person meetings, COVID protocols will be in place, and the meeting schedule is subject to change as determined by federal, state, or local health guidelines. Visit coloradospowerpathway.com to sign up for our email list or call our hotline at 855-858-9037, that's toll free, for the most up-to-date open house schedule and for information regarding future events.